When your eyes close, your soul doesn't. While your body rests, your spirit is still awake, still listening, still dreaming, still remembering what you fed it during the day. When your body shuts down, your soul doesn't. You can turn off the lights, close your eyes, and drift into silence. But the deepest part of you, your spirit, keeps moving. The soul never sleeps. It's the part of you that keeps thinking, feeling, and remembering when everything else has gone still. You may not hear it, you may not even understand it, but it's alive, alert, and active, even in the midnight hours. That's why there are nights when you wake up more exhausted than when you lay down. You got the hours, but not the rest. Your eyes were closed, but your heart was wide open, running laps in worry, rehearsing pain, reliving mistakes, replaying conversations. You were lying down, but your soul was standing in a storm. Your bed became the battlefield for a war you thought you had already won. The problem isn't your pillow, it's your peace. The soul that hasn't found peace will always find rest hard to hold on to. See, your soul was designed to stay connected to God, to truth, to purpose. And when that connection is frayed or broken, it starts searching. Even in your sleep, your soul goes looking for what it's missing. It wanders through memories, emotions, and imaginations, trying to make sense of what your waking life won't face. That's why unresolved pain shows up in your dreams. That's why hidden fears sneak into your midnight thoughts. The soul is trying to clean out what you refuse to confront in the daylight. But there's hope in that, because if your soul can run in fear, it can also rest in faith. If your mind can wander into worry, it can also wander into worship. What you carry into the night determines what kind of rest your soul will experience. If you go to bed anxious, your soul will keep searching. But if you go to bed surrendered, your soul will finally rest. You've got to learn how to give God permission to handle the night shift. There are some things you can't fix before you fall asleep, and that's okay. That's where faith steps in. Faith says, Lord, even when I'm unconscious, you're still in control. Faith says, while I sleep, you're still working. Faith says, if I can trust you in the day, I can trust you in the dark. That kind of faith allows your soul to stop striving and start resting. Because real rest isn't about the absence of movement. It's about the presence of peace. Think about it. When you plug your phone in at night, you don't worry whether it'll charge. You trust the connection. You know that as long as it's plugged into the source, the power will flow. The same is true for your soul. If it's plugged into the source, into the presence of God, then restoration begins even while you sleep. But if it's disconnected, if it's plugged into fear, anger, or regret, then you'll wake up drained, not because you didn't rest, but because your spirit never stopped running. Your soul doesn't take vacations. It doesn't clock out when you close your eyes. So every day, you have to decide what kind of work your soul will do while you sleep. Will it wrestle with worry or rest in worship? Will it relieve the pain or release it? Will it fight battles that don't belong to it? Or will it trust the one who fights on its behalf? When you finally understand that your soul never sleeps, you'll stop treating rest like a routine and start treating it like a relationship. Rest becomes an act of trust. It becomes a declaration of dependence. You stop saying, I hope I get some sleep tonight, and you start saying, my soul will rest because my God never does. Because when your body shuts down, your soul doesn't. And that's not a curse, that's a calling. It's your reminder that even in your most silent, still hidden moments, the deepest part of you is still alive, still connected, still seeking the peace that only God can provide. And when your soul finally finds that peace, rest won't just refresh your body. It will renew your spirit. Every single day you are feeding your soul. Whether you realize it or not, every conversation, every song, every image, every word that passes through your mind is a meal your soul consumes. The soul doesn't eat food, it eats focus. It digests what you allow in. And what you feed it by day, it will feast on by night. That means your dreams, your thoughts, your late night worries are often leftovers from the day's spiritual diet. If you spend your day filling your mind with fear, negativity, anger, and doubt, your soul will have no choice but to chew on that while you sleep. You'll find yourself restless, uneasy, or burdened, Not because the night brought new problems, but because your soul is still digesting what your mind consumed. What you meditate on during the day will manifest in the silence of the night. The thoughts you entertain while awake will become the atmosphere your soul lives in while you rest. Imagine walking into a kitchen that's been filled with the smell of smoke. Even after you clear the air, the scent lingers in your clothes, your furniture, and your lungs. That's how the soul works. You can't fill your mind with smoke and expect to breathe fresh air in your dreams. If you feed your spirit with chaos, you'll rest in confusion. But if you feed it with faith, you'll rest in peace. What you allow in your heart is what your soul will see when your eyes are closed. That's why it's so important to guard what you see, what you hear, and what you say. The world loves to feed you junk, fear-based news, hateful words, empty entertainment, endless comparison. And while your body may laugh, your soul is starving. It craves something real: truth, love, hope, wisdom. You can't nourish a divine spirit with shallow noise. That's why some people go to bed full but still feel empty. The body was fed, but the soul was forgotten. You see, your soul remembers what your body ignores. You can scroll past pain during the day, but your soul will bring it up at night. You can distract yourself from conviction in the daylight, but your spirit will remind you in the dark. The soul doesn't forget, it reflects. That's why the atmosphere you create before you go to sleep matters more than you realize. The music you listen to, the thoughts you meditate on, the prayers you whisper, all of it becomes food for your soul's midnight feast. So, before you close your eyes, ask yourself, what did I feed my soul today? Did I fill it with anxiety, gossip, and anger, or did I nourish it with gratitude, truth, and worship? Because if you feed your mind fear, don't be surprised when your dreams are filled with storms. But if you feed your soul faith, you'll sleep under skies of peace. The atmosphere of your day becomes the landscape of your night. When you fill your mind with God's word, you're not just reading, you're feeding. You're giving your soul something to hold on to when the world grows quiet. That's why even when the night feels heavy, peace can still carry you through it. When your soul is nourished by light, darkness loses its power. You don't have to chase peace. Peace will meet you in your sleep because you invited it in during the day. There's a reason Scripture tells us to meditate on truth day and night. It's not just about memory, it's about maintenance. A healthy soul doesn't happen by accident, it happens by intention. What you feed it shapes what it becomes. A day filled with gratitude will produce a night filled with rest. A heart fed by forgiveness will not dream in bitterness. So be careful what you let in, because every song is a sermon, every movie is a message, every conversation is a seed. You are the gatekeeper of your soul, and what passes through that gate will determine whether you wake up restored or restless. Fill your days with faith, fill your evenings with gratitude, and your soul will dine on peace while you sleep. Then, when you rise in the morning, you won't just be rested, you'll be renewed. There are moments in life when the noise of the world drowns out the whisper of heaven. The voices of responsibility, pressure, and distraction grow so loud that we can't hear the still, small voice speaking truth into our hearts. But when the world goes silent, when the lights go out, when the house is quiet, when the body finally gives in to rest, that's when God starts to speak. It's not that he wasn't speaking before. It's that now you're finally still enough to listen. When you lie in bed and everything fades away, no phone in your hand, no people demanding your attention, no deadlines calling your name, your spirit becomes sensitive. The silence that used to scare you becomes sacred. In that quiet space, God can get your attention in ways the daytime never allows. He speaks in the hush between your thoughts, in the moments when your soul sighs from exhaustion, in the pauses where you finally stop performing. That's where divine communication happens, when you're too tired to pretend and too weak to resist. Sometimes God will use your dreams, not because he's trying to confuse you, but because it's the only time your heart is still enough to receive. You see, when your body sleeps, your spirit awakens to a different dimension of awareness. You're not controlling, calculating, or arguing, you're simply open. And in that openness, heaven downloads revelation. God may show you an image, a memory, or a message, not to frighten you, but to guide you, to prepare you, to heal you. What looks like a dream might actually be a dialogue. When you wake from a dream that feels too real to ignore, don't dismiss it as imagination. Sometimes your spirit has heard something your mind hasn't caught up with yet. The Creator has a way of slipping His truth through the cracks of consciousness, bypassing your business to reach your soul. You may not always understand it right away, but in time, what was whispered in the dark will make sense in the light. Think of how many times in Scripture God spoke in the night. To Jacob in a dream, to Samuel as he lay down, to Joseph in a vision, to Solomon in his sleep. God often waits for silence because silence makes space for revelation. It's not that He needs the quiet, it's that we do. Our daytime faith is full of distractions, but nighttime faith is intimate. The day tests our strength, but the night tests our surrender. And when we're still enough to surrender, God begins to speak. He might remind you of something you've been avoiding. He might confirm something you've been doubting. He might bring peace to something you've been fearing. His voice doesn't always come like thunder. Sometimes it comes like a whisper that settles deep into your chest and won't let go. You wake up not knowing how to explain it, but you know something in you shifted, something heavy lifted, something clear emerged. That's the sound of God speaking when the world is silent. That's why it's dangerous to fill every quiet moment with noise. Some people are afraid of silence because they know it will make them confront what they've been running from. But silence isn't empty. It's full of the presence of God. It's where He repairs what the world has broken. It's where He restores what stress has stolen. When the world stops talking, heaven starts teaching. So the next time you find yourself awake in the middle of the night, don't panic. Maybe it's not insomnia. Maybe it's invitation. Maybe heaven is trying to say something your daytime distractions kept you from hearing. Instead of reaching for your phone, reach for peace. Instead of filling the silence, feel it. Because when everything else quiets down, that's when the voice that truly matters can finally be heard. God speaks when the world is silent, and those who listen in the stillness wake up with strength the world can't explain. Rest is not weakness, it's worship. In a world that glorifies exhaustion, where people brag about being busy and wear stress like a badge of honor, it's easy to forget that rest is holy. Rest was never meant to be a luxury. It was designed as a declaration. When you rest, you are saying, God, I trust you enough to stop. You're saying, I believe that even while I close my eyes, you are still in control. Rest is not quitting, it's confidence. It's a sacred act of surrender that says, the world will keep spinning even if I'm not. From the very beginning, rest was built into creation. After 6 days of speaking galaxies into existence, God Himself rested, not because He was tired, but because He was showing us the rhythm of divine order. If the Creator of the universe paused, why do we think we can live nonstop without breaking? Rest was God's way of saying, completion doesn't always mean doing more. It sometimes means stepping back. And when we ignore that rhythm, we're not being productive. We're being prideful, because the refusal to rest is really the refusal to trust. Many of us can't rest because we secretly believe that everything depends on us. We think if we stop, things will fall apart. But true faith says, even when I'm still, God is not. Faith says, hey, never sleep so I can. When you finally understand that, you'll stop feeling guilty for resting and start feeling grateful for it. Rest isn't the absence of responsibility. It's the presence of faith. It's the moment you stop carrying what you were never meant to hold. Rest also repositions your perspective. When you slow down, you start to see clearly. Your body can't hear what your soul needs when it's running on empty. You make decisions you regret, say things you don't mean, and lose sight of what matters most. Rest allows you to reset. It brings clarity to confusion and peace to chaos. That's why the enemy loves to keep you tired, because a weary soul is easier to deceive. If he can keep you busy, he can keep you blind. But when you rest, you start to see through the fog. You remember who you are and whose you are. Rest isn't laziness, it's preparation. When a warrior lays down his sword at night, he's not surrendering the fight. He's regaining the strength to win tomorrow. The same is true for you. Every time you rest, you're recharging your faith, rebuilding your strength, and renewing your mind. You're telling your soul, it's okay to breathe again. That's why God said, be still and know that I am God. He didn't say, be busy and prove that you are capable. He said, be still, because stillness reveals sovereignty. When you rest, you make room for revelation. God can't pour into a vessel that's constantly shaking. You have to be still to receive. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs don't come while you're striving. They come while you're sleeping. Because while you rest, heaven works. The miracle of rest is that you wake up to answers you didn't earn, peace that you didn't manufacture, joy that you didn't chase. Rest becomes the evidence that grace is real. So tonight, stop trying to control what God has already covered. Lay your head down with confidence, not confusion. Stop carrying burdens into the night that were never meant for your shoulders. You don't have to fix it before you sleep. You just have to trust that God is already working on it. Rest is not the end of your effort. It's the expression of your faith. When you truly understand rest, you'll stop seeing it as escape and start seeing it as encounter. Because in the quiet of your rest, heaven leans in. God restores your strength, heals your heart, and renews your vision. And when morning comes, you rise not just refreshed, but realigned. You step into the new day not from exhaustion, but from empowerment. That's what happens when rest becomes your worship. When the lights go out, everything that was hidden in the noise of the day begins to surface. The truth about who you are and what you're carrying comes into focus when the world gets quiet. In the daylight, you can hide behind smiles, busy schedules, and loud distractions. You can keep performing, pretending, and pushing through. But when the night falls, there's nowhere left to hide. The darkness has a way of revealing what the light conceals. It's not meant to expose you to shame. It's meant to expose you to healing, because you can't heal what you won't face. In the day, you can distract yourself from pain. You can bury emotions under work, entertainment, or conversation. But when you lie down in the stillness of night, your soul speaks. It starts bringing to the surface everything you tried to silence. Those thoughts you buried, those fears you ignored, those questions you avoided, they come knocking when the lights go out. That's why some people dread nighttime. It's not the darkness that scares them, it's the reflection it brings. The silence reveals the state of your soul. The night is honest, it doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter you with compliments or drown you with distractions. It just tells the truth. And that truth can be uncomfortable because the darkness removes the filters, the masks, and the performance. It leaves you alone with your thoughts, your conscience, and your creator. But that's not a punishment, it's an opportunity. Nighttime isn't God's way of tormenting you, it's his way of talking to you. He allows the stillness so you can see what daylight has been covering up. Some people only realize how wounded they are when the day ends. They go to bed strong and wake up broken, not because something new happened, but because the quiet gave their soul permission to feel. You can only outrun your pain for so long before it catches up, and sometimes it catches up in the dark. But the beauty of the night is that it doesn't just reveal your pain, it also reveals God's presence. The same darkness that exposes your weakness also amplifies his light. The deeper the night, the brighter his comfort shines. There's a reason God often meets his people in the night. When Jacob wrestled with the angel, it was in the dark. When Samuel heard the voice of God, it was while he lay down to sleep. When Paul and Silas sang praises that shook the prison, it was at midnight. Why? Because the night strips away every distraction, leaving only dependence. In the daylight, we talk to God from a place of control. But in the darkness, we talk to him from a place of surrender. So the next time the night feels heavy and your thoughts start to rise, don't rush to silence them. Listen, ask, God, what are you showing me? What is this darkness revealing? Sometimes he uses the night to show you that you've been carrying too much. Sometimes he uses it to remind you that you've been running too fast. And sometimes he uses it to whisper, you're not alone. The pain you feel at midnight can become the path to peace by morning, if you let the darkness do its work. The night teaches you honesty. It brings you face to face with your reality. It pulls the curtain back and forces you to look at what's really happening inside your heart. But it also teaches you hope, because if the night can reveal what's broken, it can also prepare you for what's about to be restored. When daylight returns, it doesn't come to hide the truth again. It comes to show that healing has begun. So don't curse the night. Let it speak. Let it show you what the day wouldn't let you see. Because the same darkness that makes you cry can also make you change. It's in the quiet, painful hours when you finally stop running that you realize the night isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. It reflects what's real so that God can repair what's wrong. And when morning comes, you rise not with fear, but with freedom. Dreams are not random. They are reflections of what your soul is processing when your body rests. Your dreams carry messages from the deeper parts of your being, those places that you silence during the day but cannot hide from at night. While you sleep, your mind releases control and your spirit begins to speak. It starts to unveil what your heart has been holding on to, what your emotions have been wrestling with, and what your destiny has been calling you toward. Your dreams are not just stories, they are signals, spiritual conversations between your inner life and your higher purpose. Sometimes your dreams reveal your fears. They show you what still has power over you. You might see yourself falling, failing, or being chased, not because those events are literal, but because your soul is telling you this is where you feel unsafe. Your spirit is showing you the places where trust needs to grow. Other times, your dreams reveal your desires, the deep, God-planted longings that you've buried under practicality or doubt. You may see yourself walking into something beautiful or achieving something impossible, and that image isn't fantasy. It's faith trying to break through the surface. Dreams can expose both your weaknesses and your potential, your pain and your promise. You see, the soul speaks the language of symbols. It paints pictures because words aren't always enough. What your mind cannot express during the day, your spirit will illustrate at night. That's why your dreams can be confusing, even strange, but if you pay attention, you'll realize they often mirror the state of your heart. When you are burdened, your dreams feel heavy. When you are at peace, your dreams feel light. Your soul creates stories that reflect your inner atmosphere. If you live in chaos, your dreams will echo confusion. But if you live in alignment with peace, your dreams will carry revelation. Dreams can also serve as divine direction. There are moments when God chooses to speak to you while you sleep, not in thunder or lightning, but through vision and impression. Sometimes he will confirm what you've been praying about. Other times he'll caution you about a path you're not meant to take. Throughout Scripture, God used dreams to guide, warn, and affirm his people. Joseph was told in a dream to protect Mary and the child. Jacob saw a ladder reaching into heaven. Solomon received wisdom while asleep. God still speaks that way today, not always through visions of grandeur, but through the gentle stirring of your spirit while you rest. However, you can't hear divine truth through a cluttered soul. When your heart is filled with noise, your dreams will be too. If your mind is full of anger, fear, and distraction, your spirit can't download clear messages. That's why what you meditate on before sleep matters. You prepare your dreams by what you think about before closing your eyes. Fill your spirit with gratitude, truth, and peace, and your dreams will begin to align with purpose instead of chaos. The posture of your mind before rest determines the purity of your dreams during rest. When your soul dreams, it's revealing direction. It's showing you where you need healing, where you need courage, where you need to let go. You can learn a lot about your spiritual condition by what your dreams consistently show you. Pay attention to the recurring themes, the emotions, the images. They are reflections of your inner world. Don't rush past them. Ask yourself, what is my soul trying to say? What is God trying to show me? When you begin to listen, you'll find that your dreams are not just nighttime entertainment, they're nighttime education. They teach you about your fears and your future. They remind you that your spirit never stops growing, even when your body sleeps. And when you wake, those dreams can become seeds, visions that lead you to take steps you've been afraid to take, to heal what you've ignored, to pursue what you were made for. Your dreams reflect your direction. If you take them seriously, they can lead you closer to your destiny. The purpose of rest is not simply to wake up. It is to wake up different. When your body has been still and your soul has seen peace, something inside you should shift. Rest is meant to reset you, to transform you, to breathe new life into tired places. Sleep is not just recovery, it's renewal. It's the space where God repairs what life has worn down. That's why every new morning carries the possibility of change. You're not supposed to wake up the same person who laid down the night before. Rest done right leaves you restored, not just refreshed. When your soul rests in peace, your morning carries power. A person who has truly rested in faith wakes up with vision, not just energy. They open their eyes knowing that while they were asleep, heaven was still working. While they were silent, God was still speaking. While they were still, purpose was still moving forward. That understanding changes how you face the day. You don't rise with fear. You rise with focus. You don't drag yourself into the morning. You step into it with strength. But too often, people wake up the same way they went to bed, burdened, bitter, or broken, because they never surrendered before sleeping. They carried their anger under the covers, tucked in their stress like a pillow, and closed their eyes on top of their pain. Then they wonder why they rise unrested. True renewal can't come to a restless soul. You can't receive restoration while holding on to what God told you to release. Sleep may refresh the body, but only surrender can refresh the soul. That's why before you rest, you must release. Before you close your eyes, you must open your heart. When you go to sleep with faith, you wake up with fire. You rise with a sense of purpose that feels fresh, like morning dew on the grass. The worries that weighed you down yesterday don't feel as heavy because rest realigns your perspective. What looked impossible before now feels conquerable, not because the problem changed, but because you changed. That's what happens when your soul meets God in the dark. You rise different in the light. Every new day is a resurrection in miniature. When you lay down, it's a form of death to the old, your failures, your frustrations, your fatigue. When you rise, it's a symbol of new life. That's why morning light feels sacred. It's not just sunlight. It's a reminder that you survived the night. That grace kept you breathing. That mercy renewed itself just for you. If you treat every sunrise like a second chance, you'll start living like someone who's been resurrected daily. But waking up different requires intention. You have to choose to step into the new day differently than you left the last one. Don't wake up and run straight into chaos. Take a moment to breathe, to think, to listen. Let your first thoughts set your foundation. If you wake up grateful, the day follows that rhythm. If you wake up rushed, the day runs ahead of you. The posture of your morning determines the peace of your day. When your soul truly rests, you wake up with vision. You start seeing possibilities where you once saw pressure. You start walking in purpose instead of panic. The night that once drained you now becomes the time that defines you. You realize that rest was not wasted. It was preparation. It was the season where your spirit was being strengthened, your faith was being stretched, and your peace was being perfected.